welcome to Piers Morgan Uncensored. Today, Harry and Meghan torch what little was left of their relationship with the royal family.
A recent trip to Disneyland. What appeared to be a simple family outing quickly unraveled into a calculated move by Harry and Meghan that dramatically backfired, exposing fundamental flaws in their carefully constructed public image. This wasn't merely an awkward public appearance, it was the breaking point, allowing observers from the general public to even Prince William to see past their meticulously managed narrative. The Sussexes, once celebrated as modernizers, now found themselves engulfed in a media firestorm, their self-styled victimhood crumbling under intense scrutiny. This single, seemingly minor event served as a catalyst, solidifying years of quiet skepticism and turning it into widespread public derision. What followed was a public relations nightmare of their own making. Photographs from Disneyland surfaced, showing intentionally blurred faces, precisely controlled expressions, and camera angles seemingly optimized for spontaneous moments, all while conveniently generating headlines about their family values. This couple, renowned for suing media outlets over privacy breaches, now seemed to meticulously orchestrate these outings, effectively parading Archie and Lilibet as mere marketing tools. The immediate public reaction was swift and merciless. Why bring your young children to one of the world's most photographed attractions if privacy is your paramount concern? The glaring inconsistency was undeniable, and no one highlighted it more pointedly than Piers Morgan. It was a clear act of self-sabotage, a textbook example of how to alienate both your loyal supporters and your harshest critics simultaneously. Morgan's incisive social media post tore down their facade. He tweeted, "Celebrities that constantly post pics of their kids to promote their parenting credentials, but block their faces out like this to pretend they care about their privacy, make me chuckle. We see you." The impact was explosive. While he didn't explicitly name Harry and Meghan, the message was unmistakable. Everyone understood. The general public grasped it, the media understood it, and even prominent Hollywood figures couldn't help but acknowledge the uncomfortable truth. And crucially, he was spot on. Piers Morgan, often cast as their chief antagonist, simply illuminated their glaring inconsistencies. His direct candor pierced through their carefully cultivated victim narrative, igniting widespread agreement across social media and traditional news platforms alike. Predictably, and in their characteristic fashion, the response to this public outcry wasn't introspection, but rather the familiar threat of legal action once more. Morgan, however, remains unaffected by their attempts at emotional manipulation or legal intimidation. He's already weathered Meghan's prior efforts to silence him, which famously led to his departure from Good Morning Britain. Unlike many others in the media, he steadfastly refuses to conform to their preferred version of reality. Their legal threats have become a blunt instrument, deployed against anyone who dares to challenge their public conduct. Whether it's suing, tabloids challenging the Home Office, or attempting to gag journalists, they've consistently shown that free speech applies only when they control the narrative. But this time, they may have miscalculated their opponent. Morgan wields significant public influence, possesses irrefutable evidence, and enjoys growing public backing. This isn't an isolated incident of the Sussexes leveraging their children's images for personal brand enhancement. Meghan frequently mentioned them throughout her Netflix series, and Harry's memoir, Spare, is replete with personal anecdotes involving them. Yet, when it comes to simple, clear photographs, they suddenly become extreme guardians of privacy. It's a carefully constructed illusion, parental displays for the cameras, and a demand for privacy only when it suits their legal pursuits. This was meant to soften their image, presenting them as relatable, loving parents, but it only amplified the perception of their double standards. This consistent pattern of selective privacy isn't merely contradictory, it's a calculated manipulation, designed to garner sympathy while maintaining absolute control over their public narrative, always on their own terms. The perpetual tension between their relentless pursuit of global attention and their simultaneous demand for absolute privacy has become a defining characteristic of their lives since stepping back from royal duties. They openly court the limelight, pursuing lucrative book deals, launching Silicon Valley startups, creating wellness videos, hosting podcasts, delivering speeches, and participating in high-profile interviews with figures like Oprah Winfrey and James Corden. Yet, the moment this attention turns critical, they retreat behind a defensive wall of legal threats and accusations of harassment. This creates a jarring inconsistency for their audience, fostering deep distrust and cynicism. The public simply cannot reconcile the image of a couple allegedly yearning for solitude with a couple who consistently place themselves at the heart of media storms, even when those storms directly involve their own children. Furthermore, let's consider their floundering ventures behind the scenes. Meghan Markle's much-anticipated podcast, Confessions of a Female Founder, is reportedly struggling, experiencing dismal engagement figures, particularly for a launch supported by the full weight of her new American Riviera Orchard brand. Insiders suggest the Disneyland trip was partly orchestrated to redirect attention towards her nascent business endeavors. However, this strategy spectacularly backfired. Instead of boosting interest, the PR stunt intensified public scrutiny, leading to ridicule. Meghan was once again exposed as a performer rather than an authentic voice, and her attempted brand transition from royal rebel to California entrepreneur simply failed to resonate. As their various media projects falter, Harry and Meghan appear to be desperately clinging to their last remaining asset, their children's imagery. The quiet struggles of Meghan's entrepreneurial ventures starkly contrast with the opulent image they frequently present. The initial buzz surrounding American Riviera Orchard, fueled by cryptic social media posts and strategically leaked details, has largely dissipated into lukewarm public interest. A simple jar of jam, introduced with considerable fanfare, has become more a symbol of inflated ambition than a successful product. This lack of genuine public enthusiasm for their self-produced content hints at a deeper issue. The audience simply isn't embracing the meticulously crafted brand Sussex unless it's directly linked to the drama and intrigue of the royal family. They seem to require the royal connection to maintain relevance, yet they are actively severing those very ties. Meanwhile, in the UK, palace insiders confirm King Charles was profoundly embarrassed by the Disneyland spectacle, especially as it occurred just days before significant royal events like Trooping the Colour. Senior courtiers believe Harry and Meghan's latest publicity stunt was intentionally timed to divert attention from the official royal calendar. Worse still, it exploited the monarchy's reputation, leveraging Lilibet's royal name and birthday for public buzz, all while simultaneously criticizing the institution in the media and legal forums. Imagine Charles grieving his mother's legacy, witnessing his granddaughter's royal name used for a Disney-themed PR splash, complete with paparazzi and blurred faces for effect. One palace source reportedly conveyed to the Daily Mail, "The King views this behavior as childish, self-serving, and increasingly out of touch with reality." At this point, King Charles isn't just offended. He's reportedly exploring legal and institutional avenues to finally cut ties, which could include removing the Sussex children's HRH status. The deliberate timing of the Disneyland visit was particularly aggravating. Trooping the Colour, a centuries-old tradition celebrating the monarch's official birthday, is a cornerstone of the royal calendar, drawing global attention to the crown's stability and continuity. For Harry and Meghan to knowingly orchestrate a highly visible yet hypocritical event involving a royal child's birthday just days before such a pivotal national occasion speaks volumes about their priorities. It wasn't simply a misstep. It felt like a calculated distraction, a conscious effort to overshadow the very institution from which their lingering status derives. This perceived disrespect has solidified the palace's resolve to establish a definitive boundary. The very name Lilibet Diana, a poignant tribute to two revered royal figures, was reportedly used without proper permission from the late Queen Elizabeth II, a claim Buckingham Palace later publicly corrected. Now, to see that honored name deployed as a hook for a Disney photo shoot, complete with blurred faces to feign a desire for privacy, all while simultaneously attacking the institution, is viewed as the ultimate affront. For King Charles, it's not merely about a photo opportunity. It's about his mother's legacy and the future of the monarchy, which Harry and Meghan appear intent on chipping away at, one staged event at a time. The British public, in particular, perceives this as a profound act of disloyalty. The final, devastating truth bomb emerged from within royal circles. Sources close to Prince William are finally revealing what many have long suspected. Meghan Markle harbored a hidden agenda from the very beginning. According to insiders who spoke with seasoned royal correspondence, William's frustration has reached its boiling point. For years, he held his tongue, hoping time would heal the rift. But now, behind palace doors, William has reportedly stated, Meghan never wanted to be part of the family. She wanted to use the family. The implication is startling, that everything, from their whirlwind royal romance to the Oprah interview, from the Netflix docuseries to the Archetypes podcast, was part of a long-term branding strategy. Meghan allegedly entered the royal household as a disruptor, not a collaborator. She yearned for global recognition, but rejected the centuries-old duties that accompanied it. William, ever the cautious heir, reportedly warned Harry before the wedding. Now, observing the Disneyland stunts and the ambiguous child PR tactics from across the Atlantic, he's had enough. This revelation confirms what critics like Piers Morgan have argued for years. Meghan's departure from royal life wasn't about survival. It was about leveraging a unique platform. This alleged statement from Prince William, if confirmed, would undoubtedly send shockwaves through the carefully constructed narrative of the Sussexes. It hints at a predetermined strategy from the outset, rather than a fairy tale romance that unfortunately soured due to an unsupportive institution. It suggests that every perceived slight, every accusation of racism or narrow-mindedness, was merely a strategic tool in a larger scheme to gain maximum influence and lucrative commercial opportunities. The very foundation of their victim narrative crumbles under the weight of this accusation, reframing their entire journey through a far more cynical lens. The previously alluded to warnings from William to Harry before the wedding, often hinted at but rarely detailed, now acquire a chilling new significance. Was William attempting to shield his brother from what he perceived as a transactional relationship? Did he foresee the inevitable clash between Meghan's personal ambitions and the inherent constraints of royal life? These questions persist, painting a picture of a concerned sibling whose counsel was tragically disregarded, leading directly to the dramatic estrangement we observe today. The rift between the brothers, once a source of public sympathy, now appears fundamentally rooted in a profound betrayal of trust and conflicting perspectives on their respective lives and responsibilities. Consider the sheer volume of media output generated by Harry and Meghan since their withdrawal from official royal duties. $100 million Netflix deal, multi-million-dollar book deals, Spotify podcasts, and high-profile interviews with figures like Oprah Winfrey and James Corden. They profess a desire for privacy, yet every move they make seems calculated to generate more content, more headlines, and more opportunities to narrate their story, always on their own terms. This insatiable hunger for exposure stands in stark contrast to their stated wish for a quiet life away from the public eye, further highlighting the significant gap between their words and their actions. It's a relentless media blitz that, ironically, has left them more exposed and scrutinized than ever before. The public's perception has also undergone a significant shift. Initial widespread sympathy for the underdog royals has largely dissipated, replaced by a weary cynicism. Social media commentary, once divided, now predominantly highlights their inconsistencies. Astute users across platforms like X, Instagram, and Reddit mercilessly ridiculed the Disneyland photos. Why take them to the most crowded place on Earth if you care about privacy? Just admit it. It's a photo op, not a family moment, was a widely echoed sentiment. People rightly observed that if privacy were genuinely their priority, countless private resorts, secluded estates, and discreet locations were available for a birthday celebration. Yet, Disneyland on a weekend was chosen specifically for its public visibility. This widespread public exhaustion stems from a pervasive feeling of being manipulated. The constant back and forth, the lawsuits followed by carefully staged public appearances, the claims of privacy followed by tell-all documentaries. It's a bewildering dance that has worn down even their most devoted followers. The initial charm has faded, their narrative has grown stale, and the public is simply weary of the continuous charade. They are no longer viewed as heroic rebels, but rather as entitled individuals who demand all the advantages of royal status without accepting any of the inherent responsibilities or duties that come with it. What does it reveal about their current standing when even their most staunch supporters struggle to defend their actions? The Sussex Squad, once a vocal and passionate online presence, has noticeably diminished in its capacity to counter the escalating wave of criticism. This change in public sentiment is crucial. It suggests that the carefully crafted narrative they've invested so much into building is crumbling not just under external pressure, but also from an inherent lack of authenticity that has finally become too obvious to ignore. And what about the future of their children? Stripping Archie and Lilibet of their HRH status might appear extreme, but for the palace, it represents a desperate yet necessary measure to safeguard the monarchy's integrity. If Harry and Meghan are determined to leverage their royal connections for commercial gain while simultaneously undermining the institution, then completely severing those ties becomes a painful but essential step. It would be a stark declaration that the game is over, and the crown will no longer permit its brand to be exploited. The repercussions for Harry are particularly severe. Having estranged himself from his family, alienated segments of the public, and struggling to forge a new identity separate from his royal lineage, where does he go from here? His memoir, Spare, while achieving commercial success, solidified his image as a perpetually aggrieved prince, further isolating him from the very institution he paradoxically seeks to both expose and depend upon for his identity. He stands at a critical juncture, having chosen a path that increasingly appears to lead to isolation rather than the liberation he so passionately claimed to pursue. Piers Morgan's pointed remark, "Celebrities that constantly post pics of their kids to promote their parenting credentials, but block their faces out like this to pretend they care about their privacy, make me chuckle, we see you," aimed at public figures who use their children for image then obscure their faces, perfectly captures the core of the issue. It highlights a performative parenting that lacks genuine sincerity, a cynical tactic designed to fulfill public perception quotas rather than authentically protect their children. This strategy, perhaps more than any other, has alienated their most vital audience: average parents who can easily see through the facade and recognize the inherent contradiction. So, what remains for Harry and Meghan once their most valuable asset, their royal connection, is finally severed and their painstakingly crafted narrative lies in tatters? Their assertions about valuing privacy have unequivocally collapsed under the weight of their own actions. They notoriously sued the Mail on Sunday over a private letter, only to later leak selective texts for finding freedom. They declared to Oprah their desire to escape the limelight, yet then launched a 6-part Netflix documentary filled with intimate home footage and never-before-seen images of Archie and Lilibet. The public is simply exhausted by the charade. Are they now condemned to a desperate, isolated existence, left with nothing but the fading echoes of a crumbling kingdom, having sacrificed their royal legacy for fleeting commercial gain? The profound irony may be that in their relentless pursuit of freedom and financial independence, they have achieved neither, instead trapping themselves in an endless loop of grievances and public performance, forever chasing a narrative the world has already stopped believing.